Am I the a-hole for waiting for the child support agency to take my money instead of paying custodial parent directly? I was paying my child's mother directly at $600 a month, on time every month. Still, she would barely let me talk to my child and refused to let me see her, ever. It was always a back and forth. She was either too busy or claimed I was disrespecting her. After I would get rightfully frustrated and voiced my concerns, I started dating a woman whose best friend is a lawyer. She educated me on my rights as a father. I was never on a birth certificate because I didn't find out about my child until she was a few months old. I believe another man is on my child's birth certificate. The lawyer friend gave me a step-by-step guide. She advised me to establish paternity, put myself in child support, and get a court order for custody, within reason. Since I was already sending money, I followed her advice. My child's mother fought until the end. She argued that I didn't have enough of a relationship with my child to get 50-50 custody. The judge agreed but also acknowledged that the lack of relationship was her doing. I was granted visitation, holidays, scheduled phone calls, and reunification therapy for parental alienation. She also asked for back pay. I showed proof of the payments I had made to her, on time every month. When the judge asked her about them, she and her legal counsel claimed that they were gifts and not specified as child support. Legally, she was allowed to make that claim. There was nothing the judge could do, but fortunately he only granted her back pay for 1 year. I became the potential a-hole because it took the child support office 4 months to review our case. I started paying my girlfriend's best friend for legal advice, not necessarily representing me, more like consultations, and she advised me not to make any direct payments to my child's mother anymore. She had already shown that she would deny receiving the payments and claim them as gifts. I was informed that there had been an error with the case entry. The office is working to get it fixed, but they aren't sure when the payments will start coming out of my checks. Now, my child's mother is calling me the a-hole for not sending the money and accusing me of letting my child struggle. I told her that she is the reason for this, and that she is welcome to send my child to live with me. My friends and family are on my side, but of course hers are the opposite. At my last pickup, she, her friend, and her mom referred to me as a deadbeat in front of our child. I don't want to send her another dime and risk being in the negatives, more than I already am, because of her lies. So far, I owe her almost $10,000, even though I technically should only owe $2,400 since the case started, because I am only actually behind 4 months. All this because I wanted to see my child. So I'm asking, am I the a-hole? Added to add, I've done 2 DNA tests. One was an at-home test, and one was court-ordered so that I could establish paternity. Now that I have a child support order, I'm going to try the legal aid again to see if my income qualifies me for assistance, and I plan to get a lawyer to contest the back pay. I'm willing to jump through all the hoops I have to, but it's overwhelming, no doubt. Now for the comments. Obviously not the a-hole. Your child's mother is a monster, and her calling you names is irrelevant. Her opinion is useless and doesn't need any consideration. Oh, but her family thinks you're the bad guy too? Who freaking cares what those losers think? Again, discard any opinions they have. Pay through the proper channels only, and don't give her a dime any other way. Not the a-hole. Opie could have saved himself the hassle and gift claim by writing child support or for support of child's name in the memo of any payments. If you are ever paying child support directly, especially outside of a court order, make sure you do this. When I would cash app her, it always said child support for child's name, and she still was able to claim it as a gift. How did all of this start anyway if another man is on a birth certificate? How did you know the child was yours? Not the a-hole, but you screwed yourself in part. And legally, she was allowed to do that crap. Legally, she was able to do this because you did nothing proactive to cover your behind or secure custody. You didn't even seek out legal advice. It fell into your lap via your girlfriend's friend. If you're not going to take responsibility for informing yourself, stuff like this is going to happen from time to time. You're right about that. It's no excuse, but I don't know how courts work and didn't know I could do anything. People always tell me fathers don't win in court. You also need to keep track of the name calling in front of your child. Parental alienation is something courts take very seriously. Do not send her money because she has proven that she will say it wasn't child support. It was a gift. Ask your attorney about parental alienation. The courts are getting better about visitation and custody for fathers. Good luck to you and your child. Yeah, the lawyer said that too. She suggested I buy those new Ray-Bans that let you record from your glasses to record all my pickups and drop-offs. Lol. I am mentally exhausted. Next story. Am I the a-hole for confronting my uncle on a $700 debt while he brags to his family about a surprise vacation to Maldives for his daughter as a Christmas present? Last September, my uncle Daniel, 43, came up to me, 22, looking all stressed and asked if I could have a sit down with him as he needs a favor. He began to speak on how he was really on a rough financial spot, and he really had nowhere to turn to, as he didn't have anyone to ask for a loan from and I was the only one left available. Mind you, I'm not rich or anything of the sort. I just happened to have the amount he needed at the time. According to him, it was a serious situation that he couldn't approach or tell other guys in the family, and the issue needed to be addressed soon. Without better judgment, I lent him the cash after much insisting from him. We agreed on payment before December and I didn't even ask for any interest on it. With lots of hugs and words, he took it and gave me his word on paying it. Fast forward and we are now at Christmas dinner at my grandma's house, and all that time I didn't give him any reminders or a checkup. I assumed he was late or something, and he would let me know why at Christmas dinner, because the larger family meets every year for that. He also didn't call or say anything to update on his situation, and I just had to trust all was well. Now on a related side note for later, my cousin AITA, 20, Daniel's daughter, recently underwent surgery a while back, as she really had it tough for the whole of last year, while she recovered from a traumatic back injury from an accident. Everyone was enjoying their meal and suddenly my uncle stood up at the dinner table and called for attention for a speech. He began to speak on how his business took a really huge boost, and long story short, how he has just cashed in a large profit from some deals. He looked at Aisha across the table and took out some brochure with some resort-looking location and said it was a gift to her for her tough recovery from the accident. All I could see was Aisha visibly crazy excited. Someone asked what it was exactly, and Daniel said he was planning on taking Aisha and the rest of his family to Maldives as a celebration on Aisha's accident recovery. Everyone was now happily cheering Aisha on her gift, as it seemed it was something she always wanted to experience. You can afford all that, but not repay my debt which you haven't said anything on? The words just slipped out of my subconscious mind as I looked at him straight in the eye. His words were, "Why are you talking about that now of all places?" Now I was mad. I reminded him in front of everyone on the exact amount, and I told him the fact on how he wasn't even communicating on repaying it. The entire family was in shock with dead silence, as my mom hurriedly changed the subject to avoid an escalation of the situation. Later on in the evening, my aunt, grandma, and some cousins began to lecture me on how I ruined Aisha's moment after her struggles and embarrassed my uncle in the process. They leave in a week, and he still hasn't paid or mentioned anything on the debt. Am I the a-hole for ruining the moment and asking for repayment? Not the a-hole. Never loan money to family because they are never going to pay you back anything. Your uncle sucks, and you should feel free to talk crap to his face until he pays you back, which will never be. Yeah, never again. Especially him. He still hasn't addressed anything. If he had said something, maybe I wouldn't have said anything at dinner. I see why he didn't go for help to any other person. He never intended to pay you back. That's why he wanted it secret. I am sorry. Not the a-hole. This situation came about because of him and his choices. At worst, you're a justified a-hole. Stop assuming. Start being assertive. Become more vocal about expecting payment and issue a deadline. Tell your family you heard their concerns, but at present, you need that money back. And this is your repayment for doing a good deed for a family member? Yeah, I'll be better at communicating. I see where I could have done better on my part. Thanks for that. Not the a-hole. His a-holeness, especially in still not paying, that's a send the Venmo now moment, overrides everything else. I would say have some grace with your family, cause yeah, not best timing on your part, but I think it's 100% understandable. I agree now I was maybe bad with the timing. I should have controlled myself on that. Next story. Am I the a-hole for blowing up at my brother for not paying rent while partying every weekend? I, 28 female, live with my younger brother Jason, 25 male. We moved in together about a year ago after he broke up with his girlfriend, and I thought it'd be nice to help him out. At first it was fine, actually kind of fun having him around, but now I'm at my wit's end. When we agreed to live together, the deal was simple. We split the rent and bills 50-50. Jason's job isn't amazing, but it's enough to cover his share, or at least it should be. But since day one, he's been late with rent almost every month. Sometimes he doesn't pay at all, and I always end up covering for him because, obviously, the bills have to get paid. He always swears he'll pay me back soon, but it never happens. My savings are practically gone at this point. Meanwhile, Jason is living his best life. He goes out every weekend, sometimes Friday and Saturday, hitting up bars and clubs with his friends. He buys expensive clothes, eats takeout from fancy restaurants, and even recently got himself a new pair of designer sneakers. But when rent is due, he magically doesn't have it. The final straw was this past weekend. After working a 12-hour shift, I'm a nurse, so my job isn't exactly easy. I came home and found Jason getting ready to go out with friends. I asked him about rent, and he brushed me off, saying he'd sort it out soon. When I pressed him, he got annoyed and said I was always on his case and that I needed to chill. He even had the nerve to tell me, "You make more money than me anyway, so what's the big deal?" That was it for me. I told him I wasn't going to cover for him anymore, and if he didn't pay his share of the rent next month, he'd need to move out. He got defensive, called me heartless, and accused me of not supporting him as family. He stormed out and hasn't spoken to me since, but I know he's been texting our mom, complaining about how unfair I'm being. Mom thinks I should be patient with him because he's still young and figuring things out. But I'm not sure how much more I can take. I love my brother, but I'm so tired of being his safety net, while he refuses to take responsibility for anything. So am I the a-hole for giving my brother an ultimatum? Or am I being too harsh? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You should have given your brother an ultimatum a long time ago. It's disrespectful towards you for him not paying his share of the rent. You did the right thing. You are right. I should have given him an ultimatum a long time ago. He is an a-hole for living his best life and not paying his part of the rent. Not the a-hole. His crying doesn't pay the rent. No words out of his mouth mean anything. Pay the freaking rent or GTFO. That's literally all there is to it. You are right. If he doesn't get it sorted, he needs to move out and point. I won't accept any more excuses from him. Not the a-hole. He's 25, not 18. He pays or he leaves. Grown-ups need to be held accountable. That's the only way they will learn. Your mom can take him in because, you know, family. She will have to take him back if he doesn't pay his rent. There is no way around anymore. I'm fed up with him not paying. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my younger siblings being separated from them was the best thing for me? When I, 26 female, was 11, my younger siblings and I were taken from our parents and placed in foster care. At a time, my siblings were 4, 6, and 7. We were placed in different foster homes together for a year, but the damage done by our parents was too great. My siblings could only see me as their mom and rejected anyone else doing anything for them. They would physically attack our foster parents if they stepped in to help, instead of letting me do it. I was growing more resentful by the day, and there were times I locked myself in a room and didn't come out, not to eat, drink, or anything. I was so overwhelmed. We were in individual therapy and family therapy, but during family therapy, they would sit on me and refuse to engage with the therapist or the toys in the room. It was suggested after a year that we needed a break. At first, it was only supposed to be 6 months. I'd be separated from them and placed somewhere else. But 6 months became 12. In that time, I bounced around a bit before settling in with a family. When my siblings and I met up again, it was in family therapy. A good 6-month effort was put in, but they still exhibited the same behaviors, expecting me to mother them and refusing to let go or engage in the therapy. They'd lash out at everyone around when it was time for me to go home. My younger sister even accidentally broke my arm one day because she grabbed me so hard and refused to let me go. There was another period of no contact, and then we had phone contact only. We never got past that because they were still set in their mindset that they needed their mom back, not their sister. They had an extreme meltdown when they were told I had been adopted. There was no contact for years. Even when I turned 18, I decided to focus on bettering myself, healing, and working toward my future, rather than trying to have a relationship with my siblings again. Last year, they reached out to me after they all aged out of foster care. They wanted a relationship, and I told them we'd need family therapy, and they would need to participate before any relationship could happen. They were reluctant, but agreed. It's clear they still view me not as their sister, but as their mom. I have told them I'm their sister, not their mom, and the only relationship I will have with them is a sibling one. I did this with the help of the therapist, and still nothing changed. They did open up more than before, so I kept trying. Recently, though, they have gone off on how cruel and disgusting it was to separate a sibling group. They said it never happens and that the system should be ashamed. They wanted my thoughts on it for a while, and I said mine were different at first. But as they became more vitriolic, they asked how I could see it any differently and why I didn't sue the state for separating us. A couple of days ago, I told them that being separated from them was the best thing for me. It allowed me to heal, grow, and have a small childhood with what little time I had left. I told them I was sorry it was rough for them, but I needed to not be weighed down by the expectation and demand that I be a parent when I was just a little girl. They hate me for what I said and told me I should never have voiced it out loud to them. Am I the a-hole? Your feelings are valid, and you were honest about your experience. It's heartbreaking that the separation was necessary, but it seems like it was crucial for your survival and healing. While your siblings have a right to their own pain, you also have a right to express yours and establish boundaries. You're not their parent, and it's okay to make that clear. Therapy is still the best place for these conversations, and continuing to insist on it is a wise choice. I had hoped after all this time they would see me as their sister and not their mom, but they have never grown from that. I guess because they never put the work into trying. I hate that for them too, because they're stuck at the ages we were taken in so many ways, and that's awful. Ultimately, the cause of all this is our biological parents. Not the a-hole. Sounds like your siblings need individual therapy that they are not seeking. It does not matter that they are your siblings. Do what is best for you. The problem is they don't engage in therapy like they need to. We all had individual therapy in the past. I still go. I need therapy for the family therapy we're doing. But if they don't work at it, there's really no progress to be made.
First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not allowing my sister to see my son because of something she said months ago? I have two older siblings, my brother 32 and my sister 33. I am 21 and I found out I was pregnant last year. Everyone was more than happy for us and congratulated us. Everyone but my sister. My sister had to basically look after me and take on a third parent role and watch me on nights my parents worked or weekends they worked. Because of that, she blamed me and hated me because I was the reason she lost her childhood. I've apologized countless times to her because this topic came up frequently, but after a while, I gave up trying to make it up to her for something I had no control over. Over and over again, I get phone calls out of the blue for reminding me how much I messed her childhood up and had no remorse. By the way, shout out to all of you older siblings who are forced to grow up too soon and look after your little siblings. When I announced my pregnancy, my sister called me and ruined the moment by bringing up how she had to raise me, how she lost her childhood. Then she started talking about my unborn child, saying how I'm having my baby at an early age because I want him to raise his future little siblings like she had too. She continued in how I'd never make a good mom because I didn't grow up like she did. I finally had enough of her and went no contact. My son was born last month and everyone has got any chance to see him on FaceTime. My brother and parents were the only ones to see him in person. My sister got in contact with my brother and told him to tell me when she can see him. I told him to tell her she isn't allowed to see him because of the way she treated me when I was pregnant. I'm assuming she told our parents this because my dad wants me to let her see my baby. He said let bygones be bygones and stop living the past, and my mom agreed. My fiancé is on my side. My brother is more on her side and only thinks she should apologize for what she said about me being a bad mom, which she's refused to apologize for because she insists she did nothing wrong. I'm not too keen on letting her see him still. I feel like I'm being an a-hole by not allowing her to see him. Am I the a-hole? Editing to add, my brother also babysat me. He always said it wasn't as bad as my sister makes it out to be. Also adding, he didn't watch me as much as she did when he started to play sports. I barely remember my childhood days. I just know she stopped looking after me once I was 8 to 9. Now for the top comments. Not a a-hole. Your sister is understandably angry, but her anger is misplaced. She should be angry with your parents. Your parents forced her to give up her childhood to become a third parent to you. The things she has said to you are unacceptable. She should seek therapy and apologize to you. Your parents are on her side because she is blaming you for their abuse. It's your child and your choice who has a relationship with him. You have done nothing wrong. Congrats on your little one. Her anger is misplaced. You have pretty much gravelled at her feet for something you couldn't control because your parents probably don't give the same reaction you did. She's tormenting you because she sees you as an easy target. Stay strong and don't let her see your child until she either A, sincerely apologizes, no, I'm sorry you feel that way, or B, gets therapy for her issues. Not an a-hole. Edit to add, I would probably go low contact with your parents and brother if they keep pushing the issue. Guarantee the first time they watch your child, she will be right over there taking pictures holding them. Not to mention, her sister seems to spend all her free time harassing her for being born. Where are the parents with the whole let bygones be bygones then? Lol. It's clearly not bygones, but not through any fault of OP's. I agree that parentification is abuse as much as anyone, but she's seriously barking up the wrong tree, and her goal seems to be merely bullying OP and making her feel guilty for being born. I don't know what else she hopes to accomplish with all this nonsense. Not the a-hole. Your parents say, let bygones be bygones? They should tell that to your sister, not to you. Why are they giving free pass for OP's sister when was angry because OP stole her childhood that was years ago? Even though the parents were the one that parentified the sister. But when OP is angry at her sister for what she said, the parents are like, oh OP, you should just be forgiving about. Terrible parenting. Also, the audacity of the sister for saying she did nothing wrong after harassing OP non-stop. Not the a-hole, OP. Not the a-hole. Let me say it out loud, OP. You are not responsible for ruining her childhood. Your parents are. You are doing the right thing when you don't allow her to see your baby. You are a mother who is protecting her child. Your sister definitely has issues that she should deal with therapy and confrontation with your parents. She wrongly blames all of her issues, anger, resentment, and frustration onto you. Plus, she didn't apologize to you. She thought she was right. So if you allow her again in your life, her behavior toward you won't change at all. Focus on your family, and keep people who are supporting you with only positive thoughts/attitude. Let your parents and brother know that they have to respect your no-contact decision. They have to stop pushing you. The family/let the past behind card is BS. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my sister live with me after she said she wouldn't help with my kids? I am a single mother of 2 sons, 4 male and 1 male. 4 male is on a 50-50 custody schedule, while I have 1 male full-time, different setups due to different dads. I live in our parents' old home, which they sold to me. My sister lost her job. She's asked if I'd let her live with me in her old room, starting in March and continuing until she finds a new job and her own place. She would be willing to contribute financially, but due to her current lack of income, it won't be much. The alternative is sleeping in our parents' sofa in their new house. My sister said she felt bad about not contributing, so I said, well, if you want to help out, I could use a hand. She asked what I needed, and I threw out the first thing I thought of, which is taking 4-year-old to his dad's place. It's not hard, but it's time-consuming, so if she wanted to drive him there, that would really help me. She said no, and asked if there was anything else. I said I have a childminder come here for a couple hours on Friday while I run errands, so if she wanted to take over for that, it would save me some money. And she again said no, saying she wanted as little to do with the boys as possible. I then said she can't have no interaction with my kids at all. They live here, and she said that she doesn't like kids, so she doesn't want to deal with them. I asked her what she'd do if there was an emergency and I needed her to do something child-related as one-off, and she said that clearly that wouldn't be an issue because I've been doing fine by myself so far, and that my girlfriend, ex, or our parents could help. I then said that as none of those people live with me, I would like to know that in an emergency I could rely on her as she would be the other adult in the house, particularly as 4-year-old has been to A&D a few times recently. I made clear that I wouldn't take the piss, but in an emergency situation, I need to know that she'd help me. She said that I could rely on her, just not for kid stuff. I then said I'm not sure living together is the best idea, and suggested she talk to our parents again about taking their sofa. She asked if this was because of the kids, and I said it was. She said that I was unreasonable, as I wouldn't expect this from any other roommate, that I was being an a-hole over a hypothetical scenario which could very easily never happen, and that I have plenty of support in the form of my ex, parents, and girlfriend, so I don't need extra help from her, and that it's selfish of me to ask and deny her use of her old room over it. I said it's my guest room, and I need to know that if she's living with me, I can rely on her in a crisis. She said it's not her job to parent my kids, and I said it's also not her job to hate kids so much that she wouldn't help with her own nephews while living with them. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. She said that it was unreasonable as I wouldn't expect this from any other roommate. Yeah, because any other roommate would pay the required rent. So yeah, not an a-hole. Sister wants discounted rent and willing to pitch in with compensating responsibilities and can't even be relied upon in a family emergency. Then tries to guilt trip when OP says no. This makes sister an a-hole. If any stranger off the street tried to move in on those terms, they'd be laughed away. It's not her job to parent your kids, and it's not your job to give her a cheap or even free place to live. Not an a-hole. I think this comment is fair and balanced. Also, if it was a stranger off the street, OP wouldn't let them move in because of her kids. Not an a-hole. Not an a-hole. Any other roommates would be paying you full rent, their share of utilities, and pay for their own food. Unless she's willing to do that, she can't claim any other roommate status. And on top of that, I doubt she even wants a roommate. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to just skip a day of my commitment to 20,000 steps a day just to prove something to my sister-in-law? 5 years ago, I made a commitment to get at least 20,000 steps every day, and I've stuck to it every day. It hasn't been easy, but it's something that really felt important to me. I was fat and stuck in a very sedentary lifestyle and mindset. Making the commitment forced me to get off my butt, taking long walks and then picking up running, and overall being mindful of no longer being a lazy person. I've slimmed down, and I'm overall much happier and healthier than I was, physically and especially mentally. Other side effects are that my home is cleaner, I know more of my neighbors, I've seen a lot of great street art, etc. It's not something that really impacts my day beyond making sure I have the time, but for some reason, it really pisses my sister-in-law off. I don't make a big deal yelling, "Gotta get my steps in every day. Hey everyone, my steps, getting them," or anything. We were at the park with her kids. She asked me if I was still doing that silly step thing, and I said yeah. I felt pretty good about it. She said that she worries about me and how obsessive I am about it. I told her that I don't think I'm obsessive, that it's just part of my daily routine, like taking a shower or cleaning up. Well, she got all weird and started saying, "I bet you can't give it up for just one day. Just one day. See, you're addicted. It's an obsession. It's unhealthy." I told her that I'm not addicted. Again, the same way I'm not addicted to taking a shower or brushing my teeth. It's just a part of my lifestyle now. That I'm not going to give up and break my streak just to prove a point. That would be ridiculous. I suggested maybe she could join me and try it for a few days, and she went off saying that I was calling her fat. She went around pestering everyone in the family to challenge myself by taking a day off. She switched her tune, and is now trying to guilt me by telling me it's setting a bad, unrealistic expectation for my nieces and nephews. I think that's ridiculous, and obviously if I'm doing it, it's not unrealistic. Her biggest complaint is that, for the past few holiday meals we've had together, I make a big show of getting up and taking a walk afterwards, like I'm trying to prove something to someone. I told her that's pretty common, and that some families go on runs together in the morning for Thanksgiving or take a hike. She told me that I was effectively shaming everyone because they wanted to relax. I think that's ridiculous, but she insists that it's insulting to everyone and makes me an obsessed a-hole. Am I the a-hole? I think it's worth adding that my sister-in-law isn't fat. At least I don't see her as fat or overweight or anything. Also, I don't have an eating disorder and I'm not replacing one addiction with another, so please stop projecting that onto me. You people are trying to come up with these insane hypotheticals to try to gotcha me, because for some reason you want me to have an eating disorder. So let me clarify one last time, and I won't be acknowledging any comments insinuating that I need to reflect or whatever. I do not have an eating disorder. I do not have an exercise addiction. So now that we have that out of the way, time for the top comments. Not a hole. Beyond the fact that is your body and your choice, your sister-in-law needs to mind her own damn business. If anything, you're setting a good example to the kids. It's a healthy and low-impact way of exercise. Not a hole. You do realize you're the one who's decided to launch a full-out campaign against me, literally putting one foot in front of the other, right? I don't know what your issue here is, but I refuse to make it mine, so drop the subject, please. If she won't, then just reiterate that you're not discussing this with her, and block/mute/make alternate socializing plans, or be prepared to leave if she starts in as necessary. This is 100% about her insecurities, which is why she is accusing you of doing this to judge others, rather than because it is good for you. Not a hole. She got all weird and started saying, I bet you can't give it up for just one day. Just one day. See? You're addicted. It's an obsession. It's unhealthy. Maybe she should go a day without drinking any fluids. I bet she can't give that up for just one day. She's addicted. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting my sister at my wedding? I'm a 20-year-old female from the UK who got engaged a year ago. My husband-to-be is amazing, and his family has also accepted me without any issues. The problem is my family. I grew up as the oldest, with one younger sister. We'll call her Abby. Now, whilst my parents deny it, Abby has always been the favorite. I don't fully know why, but from what I can tell, it's because she is more normal. She doesn't play video games. She doesn't watch anime. She's not nerdy and she was popular in school. Aside from being the favorite, Abby also has a huge ego and always wants to be the center of attention. For example, my family went for a meal out to a restaurant for my 18th birthday. The whole time, the attention was directed on Abby, whilst I sat there mostly in silence, ignored by my family. Whenever I tried to speak, I was ignored, or the topic was quickly redirected to my sister. I don't want the whole spotlight on me, but I at least want to be spoken back to when I'm trying to talk. I just drank a few cocktails and went to bed that night feeling a little hollow. It didn't feel like a celebration, just that I was obligated to be there to listen to Abby ramble on. A year later, I got engaged on the day after my 19th birthday. The next time I visited my parents, they took us out for a meal to celebrate the engagement. No Abby present. This meal was actually very pleasant, and I was hopeful for a better relationship with my parents. However, by the next visit, it was back to normal. And by that point, my sister was in a relationship, which was short-lived, so the attention was on her and her boyfriend. Every single visit after that has been about my sister, her boyfriend, or her breakup from said boyfriend. Me and my future husband are now planning our wedding. We intend to have the wedding in a few years when I've graduated and the virus has passed, but have begun formulating a guest list, color themes, etc. My sister is already beginning to pose an issue. She expects to be a bridesmaid, but is refusing to accept the dress color I've picked. I also intend on letting the bridesmaids pick their own dresses so long as they're the same color. My sister refuses this also, and expects me to buy her an expensive luxury bridesmaid dress. She's also nitpicked at other things and speaks as if the wedding is for her. I don't want her to come if she's going to cause problems, or become the center of attention. This wedding is the only day I want specifically for myself and my partner. However, I know it'd cause an uproar in my family to not allow her to come to the wedding, or to not have her as a bridesmaid. I'm not sure what to do. And whilst my partner and his family say it's my choice and not to worry, I still fear the conflict that may arise if I chose not to let her come. or if I'm being unreasonable and should give her a chance. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your wedding, your guests, your decisions. If the people asked don't like them, then they have two choices. Accept and come, or don't accept and don't go. It's very simple. I would explain what you want. And if she doesn't want to join in, then explain she wants to be a bridesmaid and can just be a guest and sit with everyone else, or not come. I'll keep that in mind. Thank you for your response. It's not easy where family is concerned. My wedding was just me, my missus, and two friends. We didn't invite family as they had started to interfere, and it was getting bigger than we wanted. My mother-in-law never said congratulations, and has always been a bit funny about it to me. But my wife enjoyed the wedding, which is the main thing in my opinion. Yeah, I just want it to be amazing for my partner and I, and to splurge a little on the honeymoon. However, are using it as an opportunity to invite overseas friends to join us. We never wanted to have a big wedding and won't go near to my max limit of guests. And all our friends are introverted and only louder and open when with people they're close to. My sister is the outlier. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe. Am I the a-hole for not going by my dad's because he always sides with his girlfriend and her daughter? My parents split custody. It's pretty random. Some days I'm home and sometimes I'm by my dad. I'm 15 female. Dad started dating Jane a while ago. Maybe a year. She has a daughter, Mandy, that's 12 or 13, I think. Then they started spending a lot of time at my dad's. They have their own apartment, but they're still always by him. The first time they stayed over when I was there, and somehow Mandy ended up in my bed. Her mom has this cot/bed thing she brought to my dad's for her. But somehow I woke up in the middle of the night and she was in my bed. I kicked her out. Then my dad and Jane said that was mean, and I have a fool anyway, so I should share. There's other stuff. I have a chair in my dad's living room I got as a gift. It's comfy, and when I move out, it'll go with me. Well, Mandy always wants to race for the chair. Even when I win the race, my dad makes me let her sit in it because they're guests. So I ended up sitting on the floor because my dad has a recliner, and Jane lays across the couch. So I stay in my room instead. My dad's tried getting me to come out there by them, but why would I have to sit on the floor like a dog? He keeps saying I'm being a difficult teenager, but that's not it though. One time my mom and I went and did some stuff before she dropped me off. She had bought me a blanket that had my favorite team's logo on it. I was excited to sleep with it. Stupid, I know. So she let me take it to my dad's. My dad made me share it with Mandy because it wasn't fair that I got something and Mandy didn't. It's not just the blanket it's happened with. It's anything that I have to share. But if Mandy has something I'd like to use, it tells me it's hers, and if she doesn't want to let me, she doesn't have to. One time Mandy was reading one of my books, and Jane and my dad started fighting. Jane wanted to leave, so Mandy wanted to take my book. But I said no, so she wouldn't leave. My dad yelled at me to just let her have it. They made up, so I got it back, but if they didn't, I would have lost one of my favorite books. My dad and I had plans to go ice fishing. Just him and I, something we've done since I was 7. Well, he brought Jane and Mandy along. All they did was complain. It's too cold. Fish are gross. This is boring. So we left early, and he just said, sometimes you have to compromise. When I got home, I was mad. My mom was annoyed and called him, and they argued. And he talked to me and repeated his compromising BS. I was supposed to go back to him a few days later, but I decided I didn't want to. I never even spent time with just him anymore anyway, so what's the point in going there? I told my mom, she said it was my choice. So I told him, and he said, I'm just used to being an only child and I can't be spoiled my whole life, and that I can't run away whenever there's a problem. Well, since then, his family is trying to get me to go back too. Am I the a-hole for not visiting my dad anymore? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your dad is failing you as a parent. Go back, with your mom waiting, and pack up everything important item you have at your dad's so that Mandy can't get her grubby little hands on your stuff. That's what my mom wants to do too. Right now, he's holding my Switch and saying I'll only get it back when I come over to talk things out. He didn't buy it either. I did. Your father is displaying absolutely disgusting behavior. I am so sorry for you. You shouldn't have to deal with this. Would you be open to going over to talk? To make it seem like you're cooperating so you can get your stuff back. Like go over, talk, get the switch back, and suddenly pack any other important item that he could hold over you. Then get your mom to pick you up. Huh, no. I'm sure it'd include Jane and Mandy in that talk. Similar stuff has happened before this. He blames me because my cousins don't like Mandy because I don't like her, so they won't either. He has had talks with me before with them literally right there. I can't tell him that I don't want them around when they are right there, as that's kinda rude. If I were you, I'd insist that if they're present, your mom is too. You need a grown advocate who will call out adults on their BS, so that your perspective isn't trampled over as just being a difficult teen. I like this idea. Thanks. Not day hall at all. Your dad is prioritizing his new girlfriend and her daughter over your needs and wants. Mandy wants something, she gets it. Your chair, Mandy gets it. Your book, Mandy gets it. Your new blanket, Mandy gets it. Your dad and Jane enable the behavior, and your dad's choices have shown you he doesn't prioritize your relationship with him. I wouldn't want to go somewhere where I am made to feel like a second-class citizen. When your dad asks why you don't want to go over anymore, send him exactly what you have written here. I am so glad your mom supports you and stands up for you. Best of luck, OP. This was my situation with my dad and his wife and her daughter. My dad's wife had made it so bad that 15 years later I have no relationship with him. I couldn't even make a sandwich without having to give it to my stepsister. Run, kid. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my stepsister that we're not friends and putting my mom in a catch-22? My 17 female mom moved her fiancé in last year. Not really a fan of the guy, but my dad lives overseas, and my mom cried and kicked up a fuss when I floated the idea of going to live with him. So she promised that if I stayed, my stepdad would have no say over me, and I just had to be polite. Fair. He has 2 daughters, May 17 female and June 15 female. June is fine, we vibe. May's in my grade at school, and the best way to describe her is you'd grown a little if you were told to do a group project with her. She's awkward, not very good in school, and really sensitive about everything. She doesn't have any friends that I know of. So when our parents started talking marriage, May latched onto me like a freaking lamprey, and I can't seem to get her off my back. Before they moved in, I could mostly avoid her at school. She's in lower level classes than me. She kept trying to add and message me on SM, and I just didn't respond. Now that they've moved in, she's just always there, trying to be involved with everything I do, talking my ear off and getting it away. I train a lot every day for my sports, and since she's not in a very good shape, the parents suggested she go to the gym with me since she expressed an interest. She pestered me the whole time about how to use the equipment and was totally worn out and ready to go when I was only a fourth the way done. I finally had it last weekend when I had a friend over after training to game for a bit, and May invited herself into my room with us without asking. I told her we didn't invite her to hang out and to leave, that she was being rude. She started crying and complained to her dad, who came in and told us to let her play. I reminded him that he can't tell me to do anything for my mom, and to take it up with her, which pissed him off. Later, we all had heavy talk and he said I was bullying May, but I told him that May is the one who inserts herself where she's not invited nor wanted. She's not my friend and she's not going to be, so I'd rather she butt out for the few months left until I leave home. My mom is upset because she's in the middle, and stepdad is making noises about breaking up if she doesn't discipline me. I've told her if she caves, I'm not coming back here while he lives here once I'm out. May has been being a drama queen and crying about it to the point that even June told her to shut up. My mom says May is just sensitive and lonely, but I don't see how that's my problem to fix. Not day home. None of these problems are yours to fix. The fiancé father threatening to break up is between your mom and him. If he is this upset that he can't boss you around, that should be a red flag to your mom. How he treats you is what you need to be concerned about, and he overstepped a boundary here. You did right by you to point that out. Could you be more friendly to May? Yes, but you don't find her interesting and she's inserting herself into your life. She's desperate, clearly. And yes, her problems stem from the parenting she received, so she is just coping as best she can. As someone who has shaken the weird girls off of me in school, I've grown up to regret it. I was harsh for superficial reasons. They didn't fit into social hierarchies in school, and I didn't want to taint my image with my peers by hanging out with the social rejects. And I watched these girls shut themselves off from the world entirely after it became clear I didn't want to be their friend. Ultimately, it is not my fault nor responsibility, but I do wish I could go back in time and act a little differently, more compassionately for their sake. You don't owe it to her to be her best friend, but you do owe it to her to treat her with dignity. Just don't do or say anything you might regret. As someone who has shaken the weird girls off of me in school, I've grown up to regret it. I was harsh for superficial reasons. Flip side is both someone who was a weird girl and also befriended a lot of weird girls and guys. Even when I didn't jive with them, I regretted it. It takes a lot of energy to essentially teach someone how to be around other people. And no matter what you do, you end up looking like a bully when you eventually need to establish boundaries. People encourage you to befriend and help them get along more with others, but will turn around and accuse you of being toxic or trying to kill their individuality the moment you suggest certain behaviors are a detriment to making friends. This girl is already boundary stomping when OP is making it clear they're not friends and that she doesn't want to be around her. It would be even worse if she tried to pretend they got along. Better to establish the need for space right off the bat and clearly so that there was a chance of civility, rather than OP never getting a chance to breathe again without there being waterworks. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for asking my in-laws to choose between me and a daughter they never had? I, 30 female, have been married to my husband, 38 male, for 9 years, and I have a long history of conflict with a woman named Sally, who used to be my husband's best friend. The trouble started right after my husband and I started dating. He had a best friend, let's call her Sally, who he now realizes he had an inappropriate relationship with. I got hateful messages after we started dating about how I stole him from her and how toxic I was. The next conflict was a couple of years later. She separated from her husband and turned to my husband for comfort. In the end, I found out after we moved back to the area, she was lying to us about everything she said happened that ended her marriage, and I confronted her saying I didn't appreciate being lied to. Sally started telling people that I was in love with her ex-husband, and that is why I took his side with everything. That was the final straw for me. I went to mother-in-law and put down a boundary that I wanted no contact with Sally. Eventually, after about a year of minimal contact had passed, my mother-in-law started pressuring me to let things go and start attending family functions again when Sally was going to be there. I told my mother-in-law that I would be willing to attend events where Sally was likely to be, but I would not socialize with Sally. As soon as that happened, I can only assume my mother-in-law told Sally about the change, because she started reaching out to my husband saying, I miss our friendship that we used to have. Recently, I received an anonymous email saying some really harsh things. I assumed this was some random person trolling me, but we looked up the IP address and it came from the area Sally lives. The email referenced my private Facebook group, my first and middle name, and was from her area. She is the only person who I have ever had this kind of a hateful situation with, so I can only assume it was from her. I decided to have a conversation with my mother-in-law and father-in-law about going zero contact with Sally, not even accidental contact, and it went terribly. It ended up with us basically telling my in-laws that they needed to decide who they wanted at a family function and tell the other party that they could not come. My mother-in-law insisted again that she wished my husband could just be friends with Sally again even if I wanted to stay away from her, and that it would fix all the problems that has been happening. I reminded her again about all the things Sally had said to me, and my mother-in-law said she still didn't believe it was true, and kept saying Sally's like a daughter to us. She's family, and she would never do those things. My father-in-law refuses to even participate in these conversations. He just gets up and walks away because he refuses to hear a bad word about Sally. I am left wondering, am I the a-hole here? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Time for some hard boundaries with your in-laws. Info. Where is your husband in all of this? He likes to avoid conflict, so for a long time he was staying out of it. But ever since she tried to start a rumor about me being in love with her ex-husband, he is done with her. I had to cut that out to make the post short enough. From what I understand is that Sally's connection to the family is your husband, and since he doesn't want any type of relationship with her, why is she still invited to any family function? It would be a different situation if the mother-in-law invites her one-on-one, but why keep inviting her to family events and make her own son and his wife uncomfortable? Her parents are my in-laws' best friends, and she grew up being close to their family. I grew up close to the family too, but because of our age difference, it wasn't as close as Sally's since she was besties with my husband for so long. She calls them her second parents, and they say she's like their daughter. Sounds like you're up against not just one relationship, but 3. Safe to assume that your in-laws fear that if they set a single boundary with Sally, they'll risk losing her and her parents/their best friends. People they've known a lot longer than they've known you. You're right to die on this hill, but understand what you're asking of them and temper your expectations accordingly. This may result in them sacrificing both you and your husband to keep the peace with Sally's family. That's a good point, and not one I have considered. Thank you for commenting. It helps me look at things from all angles. Last story. Am I the a-hole for defending my grandmother's decision to put me in her will and life insurance as main beneficiary? I, 30 female, have always been really close to my grandma. Even when my aunts and cousins lived with her, we would spend time together, just the 2 of us. Originally, it was because my own mother, her daughter, was very neglectful of me. But as I got older, we both realized we had a lot in common. I got emancipated at 16, and my grandma was my biggest supporter. As soon as I was able to, I returned the favor and helped her out with whatever she needed. Grocery shopping, yard work, deep cleaning her house. She has very poor eyesight, so can't drive. And after my grandpa died, she needed help. None of my family, aunt, her kids, uncle and his kids, mom and my younger sibling, stepped up. My grandma recently got into an accident. She needed surgery and almost died. Now that she's home and doing better, albeit needs more help than before, she decided to update her will. Originally, the will had half of her money and assets being split between her 3 children, another half split between me, my sibling, and my 4 cousins. She changed it to me and my children receiving about 80%, and the rest of the family splitting the remaining 20%. Obviously, my family's pissed. My mom and me just recently started repairing our relationship, and now she's refusing to talk to me. My aunt calls me daily and accuses me of manipulating a frail old woman, and even went as far as making a report to Adult Protective Services, saying I'm stealing. I defend myself, saying Grandma changed her will and life insurance while of sound mind, and that is her choice. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I wanted to add, I recently got a settlement of child support from my bio father, and my family thinks that I stole that money from my mother. And both this situation and that one proves that I'm manipulating my family for money. I got the child support instead of my mother because I was neglected, and then in and out of foster care before getting emancipated. Grandma was the only person who advocated for me, but couldn't take me in as a child because of her health. Not stay home. It's clear why she has changed her will. These people are just entitled and greedy. Agreed, not stay home. Maybe your grandma could talk to a lawyer and write something about why she chose to leave that amount to you. Not stay home. The child support was always going to be for you being the child in question. Your grandmother will do what she wants. They might contest the will later, but there's nothing you can do about that. I wouldn't argue with them or engage in any kind of discussion with them over this. Talking with them about it at this point can only work against you. Not stay home. She's an adult of sound mind, like you say. You've also worked hard on helping her, and it sounds like you've done that for years. Your mother wants a big payout without doing any of the help. Your grandma isn't letting her get away with that. You haven't done anything wrong, so you're not stay home. My grandma was going to cut my mom out completely, but feels guilty because she feels responsible for how my mom turned out since she raised her. Leaving a small amount for the rest of the family is a smart move. If she left nothing, they could contest it. Enjoy your time with your grandma and cut everything else off. They sound abusive and toxic.